G'day guys, how's it going? It's another day, another video, another cam kit, another VESS. A Series 1 VESS 6 litre auto here for the full berries. Customer supplied an exhaust to fit. He's already got an OTR, as you can see. We're going full CNC heads, full complete cam kit. You'll get to see the whole thing. We've just done our pre-runs, run it up for the pre-runs. I'll whack them in now. So ended up 316 horsepower. Not the most ridiculous stock tune we've seen out of one of these things, and seems fairly right for OTR only, everything else stock. So we'll pull these heads off, get them to our CNC, get this underway, see what we can do. 1 6 litre out of the car. Yeah. So normally what we would do in this situation is send a pair of our heads off our shelf to go to get CNC'd well in advance, so that once the heads were ready, they'd be here basically ready to swap over, which would allow us to complete this entire process within a week. But this customer specifically wanted us to send his actual heads. He didn't want an exchange pair, which is fair enough. Happy to oblige. It just means that now we have to pull these heads off and actually send these heads to get CNC'd, and it's gonna be a couple of week wait. So not a huge deal, just means we've got to wait a few weeks. So we'll pull these heads off, get them all sorted, get them sent to our CNC mob, and in the meantime, we'll start on getting the rest of the engine, the rest of the short block ready to go back in the car with all our upgrades. Alrighty, heads are off. Bo's got them out in the wash bay, giving them a big wash clean up. Whoa. Clean them all up, get them all ready for CNC. They love us down there. Rightio, silver VE engine is starting to come apart. Got rid of all the old DOD lifters. Bo's cleaned up all the deck surfaces. Just starting to pull the old stuff off. Old oil pump, old cam. This suspension, it doesn't look broken. The last one was.
Oh, I've already pulled a bit of metal out.
Oh, did you?
It's broken.
They're always broken. They're literally just about, I think 90% of them would be broken, of the ones we pull apart. They're always broken. Alrighty, the silver VE engine is all going together. Hopefully our heads will be back soon. Hopefully CNC placed their CNC machines back up and running, so we're hoping to have the heads back fairly soon. But yeah, full level 2 package, so dual row timing. We've replaced the standard Gen 4 timing tensioner with just an LS2 style timing wedge. They're much better. ARP cam bolts, new high volume oil pump installed properly by Bo here. And we've got our pickup going on. We've got a pickup girdle to go on this thing as well. Pretty much all the standard level 2 can package stuff that we do. And then this thing, when the heads get back, we'll get ARP head bolts and stuff as well. Full LS7 lifter kit. Because this was DOD, we're yeeting the original valley cover, and we'll just put an L98 style valley cover on it, just so that there's no DOD stuff in there anymore. And yeah, pretty much the same thing you see on this channel all the time. New upgraded rear main plate set up. You put a billet barbell in the back of it. All of the general tips, tricks, and little things you want to do to these things to make them reliable and perform as they should. Rightio guys, CC'd our heads so we can work out our static compression ratio. Looking good. Do a piston and a deck height. Bo's going to do a piston and a deck for us. Keep this all logged, as well as what the cam dialed in as and how it was installed, and put that all in file, and then we can slap it all together. It's all happening. Got our CHE trunnion upgrade in these rockers. What length push rods we end up with, Bo?
7-350.
7-350s?
Yep.
So Bo's done all the last checks. As you can see, ARP head bolts in this one being a level 2 kit, and 80 thou wall push rods also being the level 2 kit. Although even with level 1 kits, we often find we have to charge push rods anyway, because standard push rod length is too long by the time you have your heads decked, your aftermarket cam, and your LS7 lifters. Usually what ends up happening. The other thing you got to be careful of is, because they're CNC ported, in the actual CNC port on the intake, they do actually go into the hole which is used for the rocker bolt. So you need to ensure that you actually use a bit of thread sealant, which is what Bo's doing at the moment, on those intake rocker bolts. Otherwise you will suck or draw oil through the bolt thread from the wet area in the head into the intake and burn it. So, or you know, if you're boosted, other way around. But yeah, for the most part with vacuum, you'll just start drawing oil through these thread holes into the intake tract, which is not really what you want. So a little bit of thread sealant, make sure that thread's sealed because it is no longer blind after they've been CNC'd. So just part of the game, little tips and tricks, little things to look out for. Yeehaw, we're ready to slam this engine back in the car. Awesome stuff. Bo's been killing it. And we just got the car inside. We're ready to go. Yeehaw. Yeehaw, we've got our fresh red diamond 2800 to 3000 converter. This thing will be nice and lively. It's blowing a gale. Shit going everywhere. Alright, Bo has been smacking this thing out. We've got our engine in, converter, everything's all sorted. At the moment, as you can see, Bo is fitting up the exhaust. So with this particular car, the owner actually supplied us an exhaust and an OTR that he had bought. So he pretty much had decided he was going to start upgrading his car and started collecting a few bits, but then ultimately just decided he'd rather us just do the whole cam kit and get everything done at the same time. So he supplied us this exhaust, which is an Ultrex Performance exhaust. So it's getting fitted up at the moment. It's not something we normally use. In fact, this is the first Ultrex exhaust we've ever fitted. So interested to see how it sort of comes out, how it sounds. As you can see, there's no center muffler, only the rear mufflers and some little resonators. So it probably will be pretty rowdy, I'd say, considering often we will fit exhaust with center mufflers and rear mufflers. But hey, time will tell. Never heard one, never seen one. We'll see what it goes like. But he also just included a VCM OTR intake, which is something we always fit. It's a very common thing. They're such a nice little OTR, especially with the little infill panels they come with, make it look factory. You really can't beat them. All right, guys, so Bo's got this thing pretty much all buttoned up. We're just doing fluids and then obviously prime it up and then get it finally together. As you can see, OTR install, absolutely love these things, especially with these infill panels. They just look so factory. It's such a nice kit. So can't fault them. This one was customer supplied. No issues with this one. Happy days. But yeah, these VCM OTRs are just the way to go if you've got one of these cars. If you've got a VEVF, there's just, yeah, just bought one of these in it. They're so good. So you can see here what our Ultrex Performance headers look like on the car. How was the dipstick to get in, Bo, around those headers?
Not too bad, surprisingly.
Not too bad. Happy days.
Bit of a pain to get to the bolts after the dipstick's in, but...
Oh well, some of them, some aftermarket headers can be such a pain with dipsticks. Yeah, absolutely nightmarish. These Ultrex headers as well did have quite a bit of room cut out in the flange for the spark plug. You would have seen in the previous cam kit we did on that VE Ute, I did talk about how important it is to check the header flange for spark plug clearance as far as the leads go, so they don't put heaps of pressure on the porcelain and stuff like that. So both checked that obviously before these went in, and they are really, really roomy. So that's one thing that's really, really good about these things. So we're keen to sort of hear what that sounds like, this system. So at the moment, Bo's filling up the 6L80. So between the fresh converter and then obviously the full service with a new filter, it's probably one of the only times in its lifetime that a 6L80 will get a complete oil change where none of the old oil stays in. It's all fresh, which is awesome. So you can see our trans cooler down there, and the trans cooler circuit, as you can see, we've used braided lines and we've used adapters which come from airflow to adapt to the standard radiator coolant passage for the trans as well. So it does run through both. And the reason that's good, the reason that's handy, it's not super important for the climate in Queensland. You know, if you wanted to, you could just run the air cooler. It wouldn't really be that bad. But you know, if you live in a lot colder states where it does get much colder, the radiator passage actually warms the oil on cold mornings and cold startup, which actually helps bring the gearbox oil up to temp, which can be a huge advantage. So we try and run them through both. That's what we try and do. But yeah, anyway, that's a really good little install. You can see our cooler down there. Nice big 6L80 trans cooler for this converter and everything else that's going on. Woo, love that. Fire straight up. Righto, boys and girls, so big silver whip on the dyno, as you've seen from them runs, but just doesn't want to make the power that it should be making. So you guys know we have replicated this exact combo in a number of times now. So I could point you to, you know, 3 or 4 videos of different cars with this exact same combo, these exact heads, this exact cam, everything else exactly the same. So we know how much it should be making, but yeah, it's making 440. That's all it wants to make. Not sure why. Yeah, as you can see, we've done a bunch of runs. We've tried a bunch of different things. It only wants to make 440. That's all it wants to make. So the only thing that's different is this exhaust system. So, you know, we've never used this exhaust system before. This is the first time we've used this exhaust, and it's the only thing that's different, you know, based on all of the times we've replicated this exact combination. So it doesn't, not necessarily that it is the exhaust system. I'm just saying that it is the only thing different as far as the combo goes. You know, even this exact converter, we've used this exact converter in 6L80 cars with 6 litres of these exact heads, everything else the same, and made, you know, generally 460. 460 is the number we were looking for. That's what we're hoping for, but it just won't do more than 440. But yeah, like I said, exhaust is the only thing different, but it could also be some sort of mechanical issue with the diff, or we have seen, obviously, differences in power readings from tyres, quite significant differences in power readings from tyres. Could be, yeah, I don't know, could be something along those lines, something to do with that. But for whatever reason, the thing just does not want to make more than 440. It is what it is. We're a little bit disappointed. We feel like it should be making about another 20 horsepower, 20 to 25 horsepower, but yeah, again, tuning's not magic. It's just the maximum efficiency of a dynamic system. It's not like we can just make it more, you know, make it do more. It is what it is. It makes what it makes. So, don't know. But anyway, 440 is obviously still no slouch. You know, I'll pull up the old dyno sheet in a minute. It's still a huge increase from what it got here. You know, over 100 horsepower from when it got here. Just, you know, we were expecting about another 20 horsepower is all. Anyway, guys, there you go. So, you know, it was making pretty low power to start with. We had a few ideas that may have been just some plug leads that weren't on properly. It did sound like it was a bit messy and a bit funny. But anyway, the most important thing is that the gain is there. Even though we are not quite making the power that we had expected, the horsepower gain overall is there. It's the same as a lot of the other ones we replicated. There's still just as much gain, which means that, you know, whatever may be going on with the car, reading low, which, you know, it could be tyres. Like I said, we've seen huge discrepancies just based on tyre choice on the same car. On, you know, otherwise same testing, we have seen at 400 horsepower a loss of 20 horsepower based on just tyre choice. So it may just be tyres or something that on this car is reading low. That's why it's sort of read low to start with. It's reading low afterwards, but the important thing is the difference, which is there. So awesome gains, that's the main thing. Like we said, 440 is no slouch. It's still a pretty wicked street car. There's just, with a roller dyno, there's just so many factors that come into it. So many variables, so many things that can just rob little bits of power. So we try not to get hung up on the numbers too much. It's what we always tell people. The biggest thing is the difference. What was the gain? Not so much the actual number, just because of how many things can change. But anyway, good result overall. Would have been nice to see that number just for everyone's sake, but you know, at the end of the day, Still going to be a really nice streeter. Really nice street car.